All right, welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Knicks Film School Film Session. We are going to be breaking down a fascinating ball game between the 76ers and the Knicks that took place last night. The Knicks, of course, get an overtime victory. Shouldn't have gotten there. Some pretty boneheaded errors and mistakes got us to overtime. We were dragged there against our will. But credit to the Knicks, they turned it around. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on. We're going to keep it positive tonight. And we're going to focus on the overtime period, the positive plays that they made to not just win the overtime, but dominate it, so that coming out of this ball game, instead of feeling dejected by what was a collapse in the second half and certainly late in the fourth quarter, we can celebrate a win. And they showed us some of the things that we've learned to appreciate about this team, even without Karl-Anthony Towns. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on. Roll the tape. All right, so let's begin with the first play of overtime. The Knicks, of course, sort of won the tip as the ball went out of bounds. What I want you to focus on initially is the action that takes place in this area. There's a little bit of misdirection to set up an eventual Precious to Brunson ball screen. So OG is going to clear. Hart's going to fake like he's the one screening, but is ultimately going to also clear. And that's all to set up the Precious screen with now proper spacing. So let's watch that as that develops here. All right, there goes OG clearing out to his corner. Here comes Hart as if he's the screener, but he's just going to ghost. And by the way, what that does is set up now. You see the spacing that the Knicks have with OG and Bridges in the corners and Hart on the wing. And as we run this play, there goes Hart to clear out. You see the Sixers are going to switch that because they want to stay in gap help, right? So here you see a switch is made. Oubre is going to stay low. Edwards here is going to stay in the gap, and he wants to be helping out on Brunson as Hart clears out. Now, as he rolled to see Paul George, how he fights over that screen. That's an exemplary job. He stays right on Brunson's hip here. It's a good screen by Precious. Man, but George, that's why he was at one point in his career an all-defensive player, the ability to get skinny and stay in it. Yabusele is able now to stay with Precious, who is a threat. So the 76ers totally took care of that first action. Josh Hart now is moving off to the opposite side to clear. Precious is in the paint, and now it just becomes, there was nothing open. The Sixers defended that perfectly. Now it becomes a Brunson isolation on George. Not ideal, right? But Knicks maybe were lucky that the Sixers didn't have their full roster. You have a young player in Edwards here whose eyes are going to stay on Jalen Brunson. And Jalen Brunson, who sometimes dribbles the ball a lot, I think part of it is because he can't necessarily see over a defense, especially when you have 6'8" Paul George on him. So he's not going to make the quick outlet or the cross-court pass. What he's going to do is relentlessly drive the ball at you until he finds a crack, right? So now he's going to go at George. George, again, cuts him off perfectly. He's going to spin back towards Edwards, and you see that. Edwards so concerned in gap. He's got to recognize that George has this under control. But as he turns back towards him, there's Edwards looking at the ball. And Brunson sees that right away and makes the perfectly timed pass. Now, Yabusele, who's now on Precious in the paint, he's looking around at the weak side here. You see his eyes, not really seeing Precious as he catches. That's on him, right? He needs to be shaded over towards OG as the ball's on the weak side, but he sees this as kind of I don't know exactly why he's paying attention to what's going on over here, but he is maybe fortunate for the Knicks, right? So, but either way, it's taking advantage of that. OG sees that space. He knows there's no rim protector in there, right? It's Yabusele as the center. And so once Edwards abandoned his post in the corner, Brunson makes the right pass, and OG's got a clear lane to the rim. Right? It's just relentless driving to once you create the crack in the defense, you exploit it. Now let's get to the first defensive possession. And we're going to see this set a couple of times, right? So Maxi's going to hand it to Oubre. And what we want you to focus on here is Bridges and Hart are on this side of the floor. And so wing to wing, the Knicks are generally going to switch off ball and on ball. So as Maxi comes through and hands to Oubre, Bridges switches Now Hart's on Maxey, but what this is setting up is a Chicago zoom action. So as you're going to see the five out spacing, Oubre is going to come down and set a screen for Maxey to come off into a DHO and attack while there's some movement on the weak side to distract OG and Brunson. Now, because Bridges and Hart switched the initial action, this is obvious, right? They just switch right back. And so there's really not much going on here for Philly. Yabusele has the ball up top. Nothing was created in terms of an available option because of the switchback. And so Yabusele is going to dribble towards Maxey, which is supposed to trigger Maxey to come get the ball. But now I want you to see Mikal Bridges, and this is like what I want to see more of from him. Physical on-ball defense. Locking Maxey up here so that he is close to him. He's not going to concede this DHO. He's going to try to deny it. He knows Maxey's coming to get the ball. And watch this. Now he has that leverage, and as Yabusele tries to run this little handoff, that's the key. Mikal Bridges with those long arms, he gets his front arm, his left arm, into this area to try to deflect the basketball. By doing that, gets a piece, ball goes off Maxey's ankle and out of bounds. Starts with the switchability. Disruptive defense. We love to see that from Bridges. I want to see more of it from Bridges. The length, the ability to anticipate, the smarts he has. He should be more disruptive. He should be getting his hands on the ball more often. Great to see on the first possession of OT, the Knicks off to a great start. Now again, same action on the next possession for the Knicks. Same stuff. OG's going to clear. Hart's going to come up and clear. And then it's going to set up the Precious screen. There goes OG. Precious sets the down screen for Hart, who's going to clear. And now here comes Presh. He flips the screen to the left, and this time, whereas the last time we saw George fight back perfectly, fight through so that there was no advantage for Brunson, this time Precious maybe steps up a bit higher. George maybe, a couple plays into the quarter a little more tired, like less willing to fight all the way over. And so he gets caught here a little bit. Now Yabusele, who is a small 5, is in a pretty high drop. It's a drop, right? He's not switching onto Brunson clearly here, as George is still going to chase over. So his job as the drop man is to deter Brunson from shooting or driving until George can get himself back in position, and then Yabusele can retreat to the rolling Precious Achiuwa. But Brunson, and this is the kind of confidence that we just haven't seen enough from him over the last couple of weeks that we know he's capable of as one of the best shooters in basketball. That's not a lot of space. Like you can't really criticize the Philadelphia defense too much, but he senses the drop. He could hit Precious with the pocket pass, but Brunson wants to set the tone in this overtime, right? The pocket pass is probably there for him. Precious could get downhill now and make a play, but this little sliver of space, he knows he has this space and he knows he has this space. So there's place and time to shoot. And he just rises directly into it. And look at that contest from Paul George. Paul George is right up there on the ball. But that's just a confident, quick stroke from Brunson. Cash, right? So the first time, they didn't generate anything off of that screen. Brunson had to drive again until he forced a defensive mistake with Edwards looking at him. Quick pass to the corner, OG dunk. That time, a sliver of space based on the screen. Brunson gets that space, uses it. Now he's celebrating a three-pointer. Knicks up 5. Next defensive possession, we're going to see a very similar set from Philadelphia. It's going to be an entrance to Yabusele into this 5-out set. Now, the difference this time is because it's Edwards here and not Oubre. So Jalen Brunson is now in the action. And if Jalen Brunson's in the action, we're not going to switch him onto Maxey, right, on this pin down. So you see why Bridges is down here on Maxey already, because he followed him down instead of switching. Going to be a much tougher ask as they set up this zoom action, as Edwards is going to come down and Maxey's going to come over. It's going to be much tougher for Bridges to deny and deflect the ball like he did on the first play. So here comes the screen. Bridges tries to fly under and recover, but this time Maxey's going to get a catch. And the angle that Bridges took wasn't great. So he's a little bit behind. He actually gets eliminated. So both sides of the ball, it's funny, we saw on the first play of the game, the point of attack defender fight all the way through and deter any advantage. Second play of the game, maybe a little bit of fatigue already, a couple of times up and down the floor. We saw guys get caught on the screen. So Bridges here gets caught on the Yabusele screen, and hello, this is the advantage of having Precious Achiuwa in the basketball game because he has a switchability. So once Bridges gets caught, if this was Towns, for example, and they were playing their standard drop, Maxi's attacking this. Either Towns has to try to show Maxi's going to blow by. If Towns is in drop, Maxi's probably going to pull up from right here. Because it's Precious Achiuwa, Bridges knows that he can stay with Yabusele, who's obviously not a post-up big, so there's no mismatch there, and just rely on Precious to switch onto Maxi. Now, there aren't many bigs in the game who can do it to this level, but now let's watch Precious Achiuwa work, right? So Bridges is going to follow Yabusele down. And worse is you have Paul George one pass away. So OG, who wants to dig and help, has to be attentive to Paul George. And so it really is a lot of space for Maxi to operate. Brunson doesn't stray too far from Edwards either because Edwards has made a couple threes in this game. So it's really a Precious one-on-one situation. Now, Precious reaches, but that reach actually got onto the ball. You see his hand on ball there. Forces Maxi to pause for a second, pump fake, Precious right back in position. Look at that straight up and down contest. Maybe leans into him a little, which I'm sure Maxi wanted that call, but late in the game, the physicality that was going on, that's a pretty good job by Precious Achiuwa forcing the miss. And of course, who's there for a rebound? It's Josh Hart. Next time down, Brunson would get fouled on a step back three. Didn't think there was much to break down there. Knicks now up 8. Let's go to the next defensive possession. And once again, we're going to see the same 5-out setup for Philadelphia. This time, though, Tyrese Maxey's taking a little break after the miss. He's probably tired, having just been stonewalled by Achiuwa. So he's hanging out in the corner. Now they're going to try to get Paul George involved through this action. So again, it's Edwards and Brunson. And here's George and Anunoby. And again, watch OG's positioning here. Now, you want to take a team out of their offense, deny the first action, right? And we've seen it twice now. Bridges got a hand on the ball. OG does not allow Paul George to catch this ball. He stays close. He keeps his arm in the passing lane. And now you're down to 10 on the clock, and you've done absolutely nothing. Now Paul George is going to try to go backdoor. Give Precious Achiuwa credit for his active hands on the ball to not allow that to happen. Plus, Anunoby's still in that lane, so the pass cannot be made on the back door. That's an incredible job by both Achiuwa and OG. And now Maxey has to come up and receive. Now Bridges gets a little funky on this closeout with that stance, right? It wasn't really balanced, which allows Maxey to basically get Bridges is in decent position. But Precious Achiuwa is playing this real smart. Although Yabusele had made a three, the Knicks aren't particularly worried about his three-point shooting. Maxey in general, I would say, and if you watch the game, I think you probably noticed this, a little bit of a black hole driver. Like when he goes to the rim, he's going to the rim to shoot. And Precious probably knows that, and so he's going to dig in on the Maxey drive and watch the reaction time from Precious. As Maxey beats Bridges to the spot, Precious is already preparing to just envelop that shot. I mean, that is a terrific help defensive block play. That's the Precious Achiuwa. We saw the switchability on Maxey, and then we just saw it in the help, the ability to come over from the weak side and just destroy a basketball off the backboard. Haven't seen enough of that from Precious Achiuwa this year. Man, it was good to see it in this overtime. All right, so let's get to the next offensive set. So this is just going to be a straight screen and roll, Brunson and Precious. Now Oubre's on Brunson, not Paul George. Now Precious gets out of that screen early, and you see how high up on the floor it is. So Precious didn't really make contact. And he's rolling into space, but PG, as you see, off of Josh Hart. Because you have Josh Hart in the corner, PG's comfortable here, getting all the way up to deny the pocket pass roll to Precious, because Brunson not able necessarily to see all the way across court. And so you can kind of load up, which is what Paul George is doing here. And so nothing, a whiffed screen, 2 on the ball, strong, right? I mean, look at that. You got 2 long defenders on the ball. And Brunson's got no outlet. Now, usually the Knicks do a good job of right away when they see this, OG should be all the way up here as an outlet, but he stays a little bit low. Brunson does a good job of just retreating. Don't force anything. Don't turn the ball over. Retreat out. You still got 11 on the clock and find your outlet. So he does. He takes another dribble out, and that's what we call stringing out the defense. If you're going to put two on the ball and you string them out all the way back here, well, now you got two defenders almost at half court. It's going to be tough to cover everything underneath. So Brunson does a good job of stringing it out, finds OG, and now you see what's created here. Two defenders out at half court, almost literally. That's not a position you want to be in. You got a literal 4 on 3. And that's the gravity of Jalen Brunson. I mean, you take a still shot here and notice this. I mean, this is big time, right? And so OG is going to try to break this down. Now makes the quick pass to Precious, who has a straight line drive at the rim. Now, personally, would I have preferred this pass to Mikal Bridges in the corner? Probably. That's probably the best opportunity here on the screen. But instead, Precious goes, as someone tweeted at me today, Dr. J, with an absurd underhand righty finish. Now, if you're the Sixers, you're thinking, well, that was probably the best case, is that you get a tough contested layup from Precious Achiuwa out of the 4-on-3. Again, I thought Bridges was the best option, but it's a great finish by Precious to his credit, creative finish. And you see again the pressure Brunson puts on you. If you're in a semi-drop like you were before, he might pull up for 3. And so now you're forcing 2 to the ball, get it out of his hands. He'd already made a 3 and he'd already been fouled on a 3. So think about what the defense is thinking after 6 points like that. Now they're going to put 2 on the ball. Brunson strings them all the way out to half court. And now you create that 4-on-3 opportunity. It's good hoops. So the Knicks now up 7. And again, now it's not even, there's no screen. Now it's just, we're just sending 2. Right? We're just sending 2. The hell with all the rest of the offensive players on the floor. We're going to load up. We're not going to allow Brunson to beat us. Now Precious does a good job here of flashing, right? So he comes up to produce that outlet. And Brunson always using his eyes. If you watch Brunson, his use of head fakes, eye fakes, it's constant for a defense. You have to be so attentive to his feet and his hips if you're defending him, because his eyes are always deceiving. So he looks at OG as he knows Precious is coming up, and then he's just going to slip the bounce pass right beneath the trap. So here it comes. Boop, right there. And now again, look what you've created. 2 defenders literally at half court. 1, 2, 3, 4. Verse 1, 2, 3. Again, if Precious has eyes in the back of his head, if this were Nikola Jokic catching here, Bridges has a layup immediately under the basket. But okay, that's a lot to ask. So instead he turns, and look, again, he still has Bridges under the basket. Doesn't see it right away. That's okay. Paul George now is going to crack down. But OG, maybe knowing that he didn't make the pass to Bridges last time in the corner, I'm probably not getting the ball out here. Plus, if once I know that Precious is beating his man, I know I have 2 guys down low. Someone's getting a dunk, right? So Precious is going to fill the space and cut instead of staying out of the 3-point line as George is recovering to Bridges. And it's a good job by Bridges to kind of stop, avoid the charge, and there's OG for the dunk. Timeout. The game was basically over at this point, but we'll focus on one more play. So this is a good one. I like this play. So the Sixers actually are inbounding the basketball after a timeout. And what they're going to try to generate here is they're not looking for Oubre. They're actually going to try to generate it because they're looking for a quick bucket and a foul. They're actually going to look for a quick backdoor play. This is all set up for a backdoor for Paul George. So as you watch, have that in mind. So the inbound is not going to go to Oubre at the top. It's going to be to Yabusele, because what you've done here is the big is now cleared out guarding Yabusele, and all the shooters are way outside. And so this entire side of the floor is just OG and Paul George. And so you've created a lot of space. And as Yabusele takes one dribble towards George, the goal is you think that he's coming around for a DHO or a 3, but the goal is here just do a quick backdoor with no help at all, and you get a quick 2 points. It's a really nice play call. What I want you to watch is 2 things. So OG does get beat, right? I mean, tough play to guard. but his length and his arms are out. Tough to go over the top of OG, but more importantly, if you want to throw this bounce pass, it's such a small thing, but the small things are fun for me. Look at Precious Achiuwa doing some karate, right? He's thinking, I know what you're going for. He sees the backdoor, and the best way to hit a backdoor is a bounce pass. And Precious puts his leg in the angle. You have OG's arm out here, and so Yabusele doesn't feel comfortable making this pass. The turnover reverse. If it's a turnover, the game's over. There's still 22 on the clock. I don't need to force this, right? But you just get, again, for the third time in overtime, the Knicks took away the Sixers' first option, and it's just with attention to detail. It's with arms in passing lanes, and in this case, legs in passing lanes. It's just good, attentive work by the Knicks. And because you denied that first action, which was really the play, and Kelly Oubre, expecting that play, is out here near half court, not a threat. That's why Josh Hart's like, oh, wait a minute, this is an opportunity. He's looking for this. It's not there. He's not looking at me. My man can't be a shooting threat because he's at half court. Well, I'm going to crack down and take the damn ball. Right? I mean, brilliant stuff. It starts with the denial of the pass, the backdoor play that the Sixers are trying to get to. Now the offense is in a really bad spot because nobody's actually spaced correctly. Now, Oubre probably should relocate here. He never did. And so Hart knows he's not a threat. He's able to surprise Yabusele by just cracking down and taking the ball from him. And the rest, of course, is history. A spin move, Mikal, alley-oop, nosebleed, Hart punches him in the face, bam, right there. I don't know why he did that. Why did Josh Hart punch him in the face? I'll never know. Maybe he was trying to actually give him a nosebleed. But that was the overtime. Ball game over. Knicks win. The Knicks win. So I hope you enjoyed that Knicks film session, going over the overtime against the Philadelphia 76ers. If you did enjoy that video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Myself and DJ Zulo put one of these up every single week. I think it's valuable for you guys. I hope that it's informative. And we always appreciate all of the support. Additionally, just throwing out a plug for our Patreon channel. We've launched a new tier called the Brunson tier. Just look up the KFS Patreon on your phone or laptop, whatever. You'll find us there. You can subscribe. We are putting out extra film sessions on that forum. I am writing after every game a grade book explaining my grades, breaking down the game from an X's and O's perspective, but also on a player-to-player basis. So you get a full picture of the game the morning after when you wake up. You'll have it in your inbox. So if that interests you, please jump over to the KFS Patreon, and we'd love your support. And we hope that we think you'll enjoy it. Thank you all for tuning in. Friday night, Minnesota, big game. Hope you all enjoy. We'll see you next time.